Okay, so today for the energy from Snack Food Lab, the sample that we're going to be testing is marshmallows. So step 1 of the procedure says to mass the food sample. Now I'm going to use 2 marshmallows as my food sample. So I'm going to mass, zero the balance, I'm going to mass 2 of my marshmallows. And the 2 marshmallows have a mass of 1.21 grams. So they have a mass of 1.21 grams. Okay, number 2 says place the food sample in or on the sample holder. So here's my sample holder. So I'm going to place a food sample on my sample holder. Okay, and then it says, step 3 says connect the test tube clamp to the ring stand. Step 4 says mass the test tube in a beaker. So here's my beaker and my test tube. And together they have a mass of 143.13 grams. So 143.13 grams. Now I'm going to fill my test tube about half full with tap water. Okay, so now my test tube has some water in it. I'm going to put it back on the balance. And now it has a mass of 179.30 grams. 179.30 grams is the mass of the test tube with the water in the beaker. So from here, I could calculate the mass of just the water by subtraction. Okay, step 7 says put the test tube in the test tube clamp. Okay, position the test tube so that the food sample and sample holder can fit under the test tube. Those can fit. I'm going to lower them just a little bit so that they're closer to the test tube. And then step 9 says set the Labquest to collect the temperature in Celsius for 500 seconds. So my Labquest, I'm going to change the duration to 500 seconds. And so now it's going to, oh, I turned it off. That's unfortunate. Okay, change duration to 500 seconds. So now my Labquest is going to collect my temperature for 500 seconds. Okay, step 10 says place the temperature probe into the test tube with water. So temperature probe is in the test tube. Press play to begin collecting data. Collect initial temperature data for about 60 seconds. This is the initial temperature of your water. Okay, so now I'm going to let it collect. And in the interest of time, I'm only going to collect it for about 30 seconds because it looks like the temperature isn't changing. So my initial temperature is 21.6 degrees Celsius. So my initial temperature is 21.6 degrees Celsius. Okay, step 12 says light the snack food on fire and position below the test tube. And then 13 says continue collecting temperature data until the snack food stops burning. Okay, so the marshmallows have stopped burning, and it looks like my final temperature, I'm going to wait to see if it balances out a little bit. It looks like my final temperature is 27.6 degrees Celsius. So step 14 says press stop on the Labquest and sketch the graph in the graph section. So I'm going to go ahead and take my temperature probe out of my water. Set that off to the side. Here is what the graph looks like. So the final temperature is 27.6 degrees Celsius is the final temperature of the water. Now, that was trial 1. I'm going to go ahead and do another trial with the same procedure. So, going back to the beginning, I'm going to remove my food sample. Okay, so now I'm on trial 2. So trial 2, I'm going to use the same type of food, so I'm still going to use 2 marshmallows. And I'm going to mass my 2 marshmallows. So my trial 2 mass has a mass of 1.36 grams. So for trial 2, the mass of my sample is 1.36 grams. Number 2 says place the food sample on or in the sample holder. So I'm going to stick them back on. Okay. Step 3, connect the test tubes to the ring stand. Test tube clamp to the ring stand. It's already there. Step 4 says mass the test tube in a beaker. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour this water out. So for trial 2, my mass of my test tube and my beaker is 143.45 grams. So 143.45 grams is the mass of my empty test tube and my beaker. So now I'm going to fill it half full with water. So it's a little over, it's over half, but has water in it. So now the mass of my test tube with the water in the beaker is 182.28 grams. So for trial 2, the mass of my test tube with the water and the beaker is 182.26 grams. So now I can figure out how much just the mass of the water for trial 2. So I'm going to put my test tube in my test tube clamp and position it. It should still be the same. Lower it just a little bit. Okay, set the Labquest to collect temperature data for 500 seconds. Okay, so that part's good. Place the temperature probe in the test tube with the water. Press play to begin collecting temperature data. Collect initial temperature data for about 60 seconds. So it's collecting the initial temperature data for trial 2. Again, in the interest of time, I'm just going to do it for 30 seconds. It looks like the initial temperature is 22.2 degrees Celsius for trial 2. So for trial 2, the initial temperature is 22.2 degrees Celsius. So number 12 says light the snack food on fire. And position under the test tube. Okay, so my snack food stopped burning, but it looks like my temperature is, oh, it already reached its max, so I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. It looks like my maximum temperature for trial 2 is 32.4 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my thermometer, or my temperature probe. There's the graph for trial 2. So as you can see, the highest temperature is 32.4 degrees Celsius is the highest temperature that it got. So that's the final temperature for trial 2. So from here, you should be able to sketch both of those graphs in your lab book. You should be able to have all the data to calculate what you need. You can find the nutrition label for the marshmallows in, there's a picture of it in the lab folder on Schoology. So you should be able to use that to complete the last step of the lab.